double, and a run batted in is Francisco Lindor.
The call on Mets Radio 7-2, the win over the Phillies on Tuesday. New York takes a 2-1 series advantage in the best of 5. Pete Alonso and Jesse Winker hit solo homers for the Mets. Francisco Lindor ripped a 2 RBI double. New York will try and close things out at home today. Jose Quintana starts against Ranger Suarez. The Padres held on to beat the Dodgers 6-5 to go up 2-1 in the best of 5. San Diego led it 6-1 heading into the third. Teoscar Hernandez hit a grand slam to pull the Dodgers within 1, but the San Diego bullpen able to hold on. Game 4 tonight. Dylan Cease starts for San Diego. The Dodgers haven't announced a starter. Bundle auto and home, renters or condo, and save with Progressive. That's the SportsGrid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders.
Shop Macy's VIP sale going on now. Use your coupon or Macy's card and take an extra 30% off the latest fall trends from designers that rarely go on sale. And save 15% off skincare, makeup, fragrances, and more. Plus, shop fall specials for even more great deals on top brands at Macy's. Savings off regular and already reduced prices. Exclusions apply.
What's better than one win? 3 wins. With Straight Savings, you keep your own phone, get one line for only $25 a month with real unlimited data, and get rewarded with a $200 phone credit after 12 months. It's a win-win-win. Head to Walmart or visit straighttalk.com today. Switch to Straight Talk. Less dollars, more sense. Straight Savings Plan enrollment requires compatible unlocked device and new line of service. Bonus device credit requires 12 months of active service. Offer ends if eligibility requirements are no longer met. Taxes and fees apply. For network management practices, see Straight Talk's terms and conditions.
No way football is played in the fall and winter.
Because the hits don't hurt as much when you're numb. Get the lowdown on all the sports action coming up right here.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Scott Wetzel.
Off and running in today's edition of Football Full Circle right here on the SportsGrid Radio Network. Sirius Channel 159, Joe Lisi and Scott Wetzel taking you around the NFL for the next hour. A lot to get to in terms of week number 6. But the breaking news happened yesterday. Robert Saleh, the New York Jets head coach, fired, chopped by Woody Johnson. He releases a statement, Scott, today, thanking the Jets organization. I'll give you some tidbits. To the Jets organization, I am grateful to have had the opportunity to work with so many incredible people, including the great Aaron Rodgers. No, that was an ad lib. I will always be appreciative of the love and support for everyone at One Jets Drive. To the players, I truly love and appreciate every single one of you. The character of the men in the locker room made coaching you guys the ultimate privilege through all the ups and downs. Each and every one of you showed up every day and attacked every moment. They showed up each and every day, except Aaron Rodgers when mandatory OTAs were there, Scott. This is a terrible situation. I was very critical of Saleh in regards to how he coached, but it wasn't his fault. It falls solely on big, bad Aaron Rodgers that ultimately runs this organization.
Really does, Joe. I mean, and then here's Joe Douglas, too. How does he escape all this stuff? He's the one that drafted Zach Wilson. He's the one that stuck with Wilson for 2 years, right? I mean, so yet somehow or another, he doesn't get canned and Saleh does. Listen, I was telling this to Ben yesterday. This is just a classic case of a guy who was just over his head. That he had no business being a first-year head coach in New York. Maybe a couple of jobs down the line, okay.
Right.
And what I mean by that was, he let the players run things. You needed a Bill Belichick type, and oh, by the way, he is out there, to come in and let Aaron Rodgers know, listen, you want to be here, great, we're going to do everything possible, but you're not running the show. I'm running the show. So if you don't like that, then there's the door. And they didn't do that. They brought in a players coach who got ran over by the players, including Aaron Rodgers, and this is what ultimately you get when you allow that to happen.
Right, but now the Jets fans, right, are at least hopeful, looking for some optimism, right, some glimmer of hope, are looking at this as a positive, right? Like, he was the reason why the team failed up until this point in the season. They have 3 losses. It wasn't Aaron Rodgers. It was everybody but, Aaron Rodgers. And you look at the win total, 8.5. There's talk about Devontae Adams, and I brought this up earlier today with Donnie on the early line, Scotty, in regards to that, and we'll take care of that in a little bit. But, it was the fact that, the problem with the situation was ultimately there is no hope, because once the adversity hits, nobody's going to blame Aaron Rodgers. Nobody's going to give him the opportunity to say, it's you. 3 interceptions last week wasn't Robert Salah. And who's to say that the defense doesn't take a step back with him out of the building?
Oh, I'm sure it will. I'm sure he had some say in that defense, right? And I'm more concerned, Joe, about the locker room. That's an expression you throw out there all the time. But, I mean, think about it. It wasn't the defense. They're not losing games last year, 2 years ago, this year because of the defense. They're losing games because of the offense, right? And, we're saying the same thing I'm sure the players are saying. Aaron Rodgers, you got our guy fired. It's your fault. We're 2-3, yet you got our guy fired? I can't help but think there's a rift in that locker room that I don't know. Is Ulbrich going to be strong enough to mend both fences and in time for a game against Buffalo? I kind of doubt that myself. I love the Bills on Monday night. I think this is just going to go bottom out. The only hope, Joe, Jet fans have is, can the Jets be the New York Mets? And it's like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
What did the Mets do a couple of years ago, right? They spent all this money. They got Justin Verlander, Max Scherzer, spent big bucks. And what happened? They stunk. They get rid of those guys. No one's expected anything this year out of the Mets. And here they are, a win away from going for the National League Championship Series. So could that be the case with the Jets? They go all in on Rodgers and kind of bottom out and not bring in Devontae Adams, but get rid of Rodgers and maybe be the better for it.
Well, that's what I honestly believe. The situation, to bring your point about the New York Mets, they told Scherzer, they shipped him out. We're rebuilding for 2024. They made him sour, and they shipped him to Texas. And all of a sudden, here they are in the sense of on the verge of a World Series appearance, right? So that is the potential in regards to that. You're right. I believe that in order to be a great team, you could have great players, but you still need team chemistry. You need a locker room. And that was the problem with the New York Jets. And it started back in the OTAs when he decided that he wasn't going to be a part of that team in regards to doing whatever Aaron Rodgers decided to do, right? When adversity hit, everybody was pointing fingers at everyone else, and nobody was pointing fingers at Aaron Rodgers. And that is the problem. If you can't take accountability in regards to throwing 3 interceptions and costing your team an opportunity to win that ball game in London on Sunday, how is it ever going to change? And you're right in regards to Ulbrich and the interim basis. Do you believe Sauce Gardner and that defense are going to be dialed in if the offense continues to be inconsistent? Look at the situation with Denver with Russell Wilson. They checked out in the second half of the season because they were tired of carrying that team. If the offense doesn't come around and they become one-dimensional and they can't run the football with Braylon Allen and Breece Hall, and Aaron Rodgers is forced to win games solely with his arm, he can't do it, Scott. And that's the ultimate reality that nobody wants to buy into.
Yeah. I mean, they throw the football 96 times, Joe. 96 in 2 games that both ended up being one-score games. So it's not like they were being blown out, albeit 17-0,
Right.
but it was 17-7 against Minnesota at the half. There was no reason to get out of your regular game plan. I mean, if you watch Jet games, they can have 1st and goal at the 1-yard line. They're throwing the football. I mean, they bend over backwards so much to make Aaron Rodgers a success. And if you watch him, he's just old. Listen, no fault of his. Father Time wins out, right? 41 years old, he can't move. If I'm a defense, I'm blitzing the Jets every single play when I play them from here on out. I've seen enough to know after 5 games. The guy is basically done. I'm sure he's going to have moments where you think, okay, it's Aaron Rodgers from the mid-30s, but ultimately, are they going to win? No.
Now, let me ask you, because I like the Bills on Monday night too, and we're a long way away from that. But, and Donnie brought this up to me, and I think they need to run the football. In order for them to win games, you cannot have him thrown 96 times over 2 games. He just doesn't have it in regards to the same way he did it in Green Bay when he was at the pinnacle, right? So if that's the case, Donnie thought the other side in the sense of he's going to look to showcase his arm. He might throw it 40 times because, hey, it wasn't me, it was the coach. Now that we got the coach out of the building, now we're going to open things up. I don't know. He can't even when he gets knocked down now, he's like writhing in pain every time he takes a hard hit, right? How do you want to attack Buffalo? Do you want to attack it on the ground, or do you want to go through the air with Aaron Rodgers and hope that he pulls one like a magician? He's David Blaine and he'll pull a rabbit out of a hat.
I was saying yesterday, this has got Leon Hess written all over, right? I remember I was at the Jets press conference when poor Leon, like 85 years old, right? He comes into the press conferences, I'm tired of losing. I'm firing Pete Carroll, and I'm bringing in my guy, Rich Kotite, and that's it. We're done with losing, right? And how that turned out. So it could be the same thing here. I want to hear from Rodgers. What is he going to say, Joe? Is he really going to say with a straight face, I had nothing to do with this? We all know that's not the case. I mean, I'd have more respect from him if he just said, yeah, you know what, we didn't get along. I didn't get along with the guy. So if I'm only going to be here for a year or two, then I wanted my guys in there. I'd have more
let me ask you this. I saw this on Twitter, and it's the truth. Has he gotten along with any coach? He didn't get along with McCarthy.
He doesn't get along with his family, Joe. He doesn't get along with his own family, let alone coaches.
He didn't get along with Salah. He didn't get along with LaFleur. He didn't get along with McCarthy. The only one that he gets along with is McAfee when he goes on his show, and it's because he's getting paid a boatload of money. It's ridiculous. Unbelievable. We'll dive more into the Jets situation. We'll also look at the Week 6 slate right here on Football Full Circle.
Don't look like an idiot at work. Know your stuff. Football and everything else.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
The Justice Department announced the arrest Tuesday of an Afghan national living in Oklahoma and accused him of plotting to kill Americans on Election Day on behalf of the terror group ISIS.
With the SportsGrid News Flash, I'm Trey Westerberg.
27-year-old Nasir Tawedi is alleged to have sought to purchase semi-automatic firearms and ammunition to further his alleged plans to carry out the attack, and even went so far as to liquidate his family's assets and resettling family members overseas in preparation. Hurricane Milton's wind speeds have slightly decreased, but it remains a Category 5 storm, according to the U.S. National Hurricane Center's most recent advisory. The storm has maximum sustained wind speeds of 160 miles per hour. As of 11 p.m. Tuesday, it was 405 miles southwest of Tampa. It had picked up lateral speed moving toward Florida at 12 miles per hour, and the Hurricane Center said it was expected to travel more quickly overnight into today.
I'm Trey Westerberg with the SportsGrid News Flash.
In business, service is everything. Cintas delivers what you need to better serve your customers. Whether it's freshly laundered work apparel for almost any job imaginable, tested and inspected fire protection systems, first aid and safety supplies, on-site AED training, or mops and restroom products, stocked and ready when you need them. Better work days happen together. So visit Cintas.com.
Oh, I'm ready!
And get ready for the workday.
Extravagant, luxurious, lavish. The $7 Lux Cravings Box from Taco Bell satisfies all your crunchiest, cheesiest, sauciest cravings. Indulge in a beefy 5-layer burrito, chicken chalupa supreme, Doritos Locos Taco, and chips and a drink for an unluxurious price. It's Lux for less. Get yours today at Taco Bell. At participating Taco Bell stores for a limited time only while supplies last. Price and participation vary. Drinks excludes freezes. Tax extra.
Fall is almost here.
It's time to stow the lawnmower and get ready for all that glorious action coming your way. Stay tuned to SportsGrid for all the strategies, angles, and info you need to get the winning edge. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Scott Wetzel.
Back on Football Full Circle, breaking down week number 6 in the NFL. Before we do that, we left off talking about the current situation in New York. Aaron Rodgers and this team have a lot to answer to. They do play the Buffalo Bills on Monday night. 2.5 dogs with a 40.5 number up on FanDuel, and we could break that down a little bit later. But Scott, I brought up Davante Adams in the break and his current situation. It looks like potentially he might be a fit with the New York Jets and his former quarterback at Green Bay. But looking at this situation unravel, right, and knowing now that there's an interim head coach, Do you think Devontae Adams would want to go to New York in regards to this situation? Does he want to go to New Orleans now with his former quarterback, Derek Carr out with an oblique injury? I mean, the situation thinking that if I'm Devontae Adams, I'm going to walk into New York, there's going to be the inmates running the asylum, and that's what I want to really end my career. I thought he wanted to be with a winner. How could you go back to Aaron Rodgers in New York with the current situation?
Yeah, and there's no guarantee Rodgers is going to be on this team next year. There would be a $49 million cap hit, which is pretty significant, but it's doable. If you want to break away, if this whole thing implodes, you draft a quarterback and you can accept the $49 million cap hit just because you're delegating that much money to a quarterback anyway. So would he want to buy into that situation? He's got 2 years left after this season at $35 million. That's a lot of money. I don't know. You're saying, and you're right with New Orleans. Now, the oblique injury, that, could hopefully be only a couple of weeks for Derek Carr and the Saints. But, did he have that much success with him when he was with the Raiders for the 1 year? You're right. I still think it's going to be Washington. To me, that makes I could see the Commanders saying, all right, you know what? We're all in. It's non-conference. There's no ties to them. No reason why you wouldn't want to trade. I think it's the Raiders. But back to the Jets. If you're the Jets, Joe, here's the thing. Are you still all in, or are you the Mets? Are you saying that's it? We tried, we failed, It's not happening. If you're all in, then you trade a first-round pick for Devontae Adams. And
but you're right. But let me ask you this, because Woody Johnson made it clear it was his decision and his solely, right? So, okay, that's your decision. Now, supposedly the rumblings were that Saleh wanted to fire Nate Hackett, and then that's how the situation, if that's the case, Scott, where Saleh wanted to fire Hackett and Rodgers most likely then reached out to Johnson and said, if that goes down, I'm checked out. I'm telling you, I'm not playing for this guy. Then something had to be done, right? So maybe that's how that's the truth. But let me ask you
this.
Let's
say that's true. Wouldn't they have gone back to Saleh and said, listen, we can't do it. I know you want to fire them. I want to fire him, but Rodgers says he's going to bail. Wouldn't they have given him the opportunity to say, okay, then we won't fire him?
Would they, though? Or maybe you would think, but maybe Aaron Rodgers was so fed up because he wasn't getting his way, because he brought up the cadence situation a couple of weeks ago, right? What cost your team the game? Well, the offense didn't have good cadence. Rodgers came out and said, I thought we had good cadence. You're going to have to ask him, right? So then there was a little rift back then 2 weeks ago. Then you lose to Denver in that situation. Not Denver, Minnesota, right? In regards to that situation, he throws 3 interceptions. He didn't even wait for an opportunity for Saleh to really throw Rodgers under the bus. He just fired him. And here's the other thing. If you're Adams, right, and you're right, but what if they lose to Buffalo? What if they lose one more game and they're 2-5? The season's over then, right? They have the Texans, Buffalo, and I believe they have one more tough AFC opponent that they're going to have to face, the Steelers. They could lose all 3 of those games, Scott, and potentially be 2-6. And would Devontae Adams want to be on that type of team?
It's a pretty easy schedule, though, Joe. The AFC in general got a pretty they got New England on there one more time. They got Arizona on there. They got Indianapolis, Seattle, what stinks, Jacksonville, Dolphins, who are just are embarrassing twice. That's not that bad of a schedule. They can make amends with that. But it's not.
Arizona
I don't see
beat
any
San Fran.
I don't see any, Kansas City or Dallas or Philadelphia or Baltimore. They got none of those teams on there, so they can make amends. But I just wonder with Rodgers, why if he's controlling the show, then how come it wasn't Hackett that got the head coaching job? That's my only thing. Unless they think, okay, we're going to try and sell it that it really wasn't you, Aaron. But if we name your guy the head coach, then it's really going to be a tough sell. That would be my only thing on why they would not name Hackett the head coach. But it doesn't make much sense. I mean, but I read where Saleh wanted to take away the play calling responsibilities from Hackett. I read that somewhere. So
okay, if that's the case, let me ask you that right here, right now. If I gave you $1,000, are you buying the Jets over the 8.5? Are you buying them at 28-1 to potentially, make it to the Super Bowl? Would you buy into that right here, right now, knowing that Devontae Adams potentially is on the horizon and knowing where they are from an offensive, defensive perspective?
No, I wouldn't. And here's why, Joe. There's too many riches. That offense, if you look at it, is pretty darn good. They got one of the better backfields with a two-headed tandem now. They got Garrett Wilson, who's 1,000-yard receiver last year with Zach Wilson. You don't really, I hate to say this, it sounds goofy, but you don't need Devontae Adams. What's Devontae Adams going to do? The only thing he's going to do to me is get Garrett Wilson more ticked off. Who's your future, Garrett Wilson or Devontae Adams? If you're Garrett Wilson, you're saying, I'm not getting the ball thrown my way now. Well, I'm never going to get the ball thrown my way if Adams is here. So I just think it's too many riches, as crazy as that sounds on offense. The common denominator is the same, and that's Aaron Rodgers, 41-year-old Aaron Rodgers. So I wouldn't do it.
Yeah, I agree with you, Scott, and that's why I think that they're going to implode. They cannot rebound from this because there's too many moving parts, right? Aaron wants to put his blueprint on this and somehow resurrect this organization. It's going to completely fail. And here's the other thing. Is Garrett Wilson going to look at Aaron Rodgers if they do have another pitiful performance? And the young players like Sauce Gardner, are they going to buy into the New York Jets and their star quarterback? All they needed, Scott, was a quarterback last year. They would have made it to the Super Bowl. They're still asking themselves the same question with big, bad Aaron at the helm. We'll come back and break down week number 6.
There's smart.
And there's not smart.
Not smart is hope as a strategy. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Keep it here.
And win. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. The SportsGrid Radio Network presents This Date in Sports History.
Hey, baby! We're going to be here all day!
In 1959, the Bears linebacker Mike Singletary was born.
Hey, lift it up! If it's plop over there and Sterling Sharp is on the inside guy, you got to be on it.
The 7-time NFL All-Pro led the Bears to a Super Bowl in 1985, and the Bears gave up the fewest points in 85, 86, and 88.
I like this kind of party, baby.
For SportsGrid Radio, I'm Mike DeMurgis.
The Technology Minute with George Capalbo.
If you've ever brewed your own beer, you may have discovered that bad brewer's yeast, through a process called hyperattenuation, can massively boost the beer's alcohol content, change its flavor, or, in a worst-case scenario, make your beer explode.
Cheers.
New research by the American Society of Microbiology found that adding small amounts of one of 8 different kinds of killer toxins to your beer prevents bad taste, extra alcohol content, and explosions. But if not done carefully, might lead to other problems. Follow me at Chicapalbo on X and stay tuned to the Technology Minute for more cool stuff like this.
Moneyline.
I tried to save the city. Little bit of pride, New York. We deserve better. I am a Yankee fan, but I'm not a Giant fan. I'm not a Jet fan, but I'm a proud New Yorker. I don't like to feel embarrassed. I don't like to watch my friends embarrass themselves, my family defending garbage.
Catch Moneyline with Donnie Rightside and Kevin Walsh. Weekdays, 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 Pacific. On the SportsGrid Radio Network. Wherever you go,
there you are.
Download the SportsGrid mobile app and we'll be right there with you.
So now you can get the winning edge
anywhere. Even while the wife's talking to you.
if you've got an earbud.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Scott Wetzel.
Continuing the conversation, we're going to dive into week number 6, Thursday night game. I know you'll talk about it tomorrow, Scott, but I still want to break it down with you. Seattle and San Francisco. Seattle, lose to the New York Giants 29-20. Geno Smith, that offense, a little bit taken out of their game plan. The emergence of Daniel Jones in the passing attack ripped that secondary. And you have Brock Purdy and the San Francisco 49ers now coming off a home loss to Arizona as a 7.5-point favorite. They're laying 3.5. Total is 48.5. I think it's a bounce back for Purdy. I'm not sold on Seattle big picture. I think they cover this number fairly easy. I love the total to go over the 48 and a hook.
Yeah, I'm not in love with the total, but I must say, can anyone honestly look themselves in a mirror with this game, Joe, and say, boy, I love Seattle? All right? I mean, which careful because,
I know.
It's boys in Vegas 100, public generally nothing when it comes to games like this, right? I mean, 3.5 for a desperate San Francisco team, right? I mean, losing a couple in a row. Are they going to fall to 2 and 4 when everything's said and done? But the line's only 3.5, for a Seahawks team that couldn't beat the Giants without their 2 best offensive players. Maybe this is an indictment on San Francisco more than it is a prop up on Seattle, but it's hard not to. I know it's a short week. You think home teams generally are better off in Thursday situations. They're actually not. They actually have a losing record, and it's way under against the spread due Thursday night home teams. So, yeah, I like San Fran as well. And by the way, just to throw it out there, our boy Aaron Rodgers just denied that he had anything to do with the firing.
Okay. Okay.
And he throws in a comment, Joe, really quickly. I'm surprised people think I have all this power here. Well, I don't know. Gee, you asked for an offensive coordinator. You got him. You asked for your best wide receivers from Green Bay. You got them. Everything you've asked for, permission to be away from the team, when you're not supposed to be, you got that. I mean, yeah, we do think you have a lot of power, Aaron.
Right. But why don't, and that he's not going to be pressed on that type of situation, right? You got to approach him with kid gloves in regards to that type of situation. So, of course, it'll never be yes. But you're ultimately right. And that's why, again, can't back them in regards to that big picture type of situation because who is the coach? Is it Ulbrich? Is it Aaron Rodgers? When the stuff hits the fan, if they go on another losing streak or they lose on Monday night, who do the young players look to? Are they looking at Aaron Rodgers or are they looking to their position coach to say, hey, coach, what's going on? Right? And it's, again, the inmates running the asylum, and that's why it's a heavy sell for me. You're right about this game, too, on Thursday night. I can buy into Seattle. The problem with me is I never thought Seattle was an elite team, right? I thought they were a middle-of-the-road team, 7-8 wins. I know they had a high win total this year at 8.5. I never viewed Geno Smith as the second coming of, you name it, Jim Zorn back in the day, the best Seattle quarterback, Russell Wilson, right, in regards to that. I never looked at them and thought, wow, this is an 11 or a 12-win football team. So I was looking to sell them after they started 3-0. You're right that San Francisco has a lot of question marks, but I got to believe that Brock Purdy and the playmakers that they still have can score points, number one, and that defense can turn over Geno at least once or twice to potentially save the day. Even if they win it, Scott, 24-20, you cover the number. It's not 7.5 or 6.5 like in years past.
Well, and also, Joe, think of the implications of a Seattle win, which plays a role into San Francisco's preparation, right? If Seattle wins, they have not only a 2-game lead, a 2.5-game lead over San Francisco for the division race, because they would, at this point anyway, win the head-to-head tiebreaker. They would be 4-2, and San Fran would be 2-4. Now, it's not a must win for San Fran, but it's pretty darn close. So you're going to get San Fran's A game. And you would have thought you would have gotten that last week, against Arizona, but, for whatever reason, you didn't. But I'll take San Francisco knowing I'm going to get their A game. And if they don't win or don't cover, I'm okay with that. A lot of bets are made based on what can I live with? Can I live with taking Seattle and losing? What am I, nuts? It's San Francisco in a big-time spot. So if I grab San Fran laying to 3.5, and I would buy it now because I do think it's going to go up to 4. And if it doesn't work out, I can live with myself saying, you know what?
Well,
San Fran's not the same San Fran anymore.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'd be willing to lay the 176 money line. I don't even want the points. It's just I would put the money line with another prop bet or something else. They're plus 420 still front runners in the NFC to win the championship. When we come back, more Week 6 on Football Full Circle. Keep it where it is.
The the winning edge.
You've got it.
But not everybody has it, because not everybody listens to us.
But we're working on that.
This is the Sports Grid Radio Network.
Progressive presents the SportsGrid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders. The NHL season opened up on Tuesday with 3 games.
Cleared ahead, breakaway, Kyrou, 3-2, St. Louis, he scores!
The call on Blues Radio, 3-2, the win for St. Louis on the road at Seattle. The defending Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers beat the Boston Bruins 6-4. In Salt Lake City, the Utah Hockey Club won their first game 5-2 over the Chicago Blackhawks. Utah in its first season after the franchise was moved from Phoenix. Baseball Tuesday, the Mets beat the Phillies 7-2. The Padres nipped the Dodgers 6-5. The Mets can close out the Phillies today, while the Padres will look to eliminate the Dodgers. In Detroit, the Tigers and Guardians battle in Game 3. The series tied at 1-1. The Royals host the Yankees. That series tied at a game apiece. Bundle auto and home, renters or condo, and save with Progressive. That's the Sports Grid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders.
Stirring fiber, exercising, frequent trips to the store for more laxatives and fiber. Sounds like your constipation with belly pain is a lot to manage. But if your symptoms that keep coming back are signs of irritable bowel syndrome with constipation or IBS-C, ask your doctor how Linzess can help you get ahead of it. Linzess linaclotide is a prescription medicine that treats IBS-C in adults. It's not a laxative. It's a once-daily pill that helps you get ahead of your symptoms. It's proven to help you have more frequent and complete bowel movements and helps relieve overall abdominal symptoms, belly pain, discomfort, and bloating. These symptoms were studied in combination, not individually. Do not give Linzess to children less than 2. It may harm them. Do not take Linzess if you have a bowel blockage. Get immediate help if you develop unusual or severe stomach pain, especially with bloody or black stools. The most common side effect is diarrhea, sometimes severe. If it's severe, stop taking Linzess and call your doctor right away. Other side effects include gas, stomach area pain, and swelling. Learn more at linzess.com or call 1-800-LANZESS.
Days are getting cooler.
The shadows are getting longer.
You know what that means?
It's football weather. So bundle up and keep it here for all the latest strategies and gridiron information.
It's smarter to be on Sports Grid.
This is the Sports Grid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Scott Wetzel.
All right, breaking down week number 6 in the NFL, some intriguing matchups, some injuries. We talked about the Texans and their win over the Buffalo Bills. We talked about it earlier in the week. Nico Collins, star wide receiver, placed on IR. He'll miss at least 4 games with the hamstring injury. Scott, he's emerged as just an unbelievable wide receiver. Was not that productive in Michigan, and you can make the argument more of a run-heavy type of offense that they had in Ann Arbor, but to see him emerge and lead the NFL, especially after last week, right? He's got at least 100 yards on the second leading wide receiver. Unbelievable hit for the Houston Texans.
Yeah, well, this is why you get Stephon Diggs, though, right? I mean, they shouldn't have missed a beat. Didn't really miss a beat last year when they lost Tank Dell at the end of the season. Collins a little bit better than Tank Dell, but we'll see now if Stephon is still a number 1 wide receiver, right? It's always nice to be the counter guy. You could be the Juan Soto to Aaron Judge. What happens when Judge is batting in front of you? All right. So what happens now when Diggs is getting all the attention? When they take on the Patriots this week and future teams, it's not going to be, okay, best defensive back on Collins, and then, hope we can do our best against Diggs and Tank Dell. Now it's going to be best defensive back on Diggs. So you would think he'd still have something left, but you never know.
Well, I think he had 80 yards. He picked up the slack in regards to that type of adjustment in game. And it's a lot different, right? Buffalo at that particular time didn't have a chance to adjust. You can make the argument now New England has, a full week to prepare for that matchup. Drake May will get the start in regards to this game in Foxborough. 7-point dogs already, 38.5. If you're Houston, the biggest thing for me, forget the offense, and Stroud is the real deal, no doubt. His deep ball, he throws such an amazing ball with touch, right? In stride, always leads his wide receivers. But that defense really contained Josh Allen. 9 of 30 in terms of completion percentage, under 150 yards. They bring that type of performance Sunday in Foxborough. I don't see any way the Patriots can cover the 7-point number.
Yeah, we say that, right? But then you go back to the numbers, Joe. Everyone has different names and numbers to this stuff, but I keep track of it. 3-18 against the spread are favored 6 points or more this season. Only 8-13 straight up. I mean, 3-18 is like, to me, that's a blind bet. I'm getting 6.5. I'm betting, or I'm getting 6. I'm betting the underdog. It's not easy to do week in, week out. But week in, week out, Joe, they all covered. Both of them covered last week. You got a bunch this week. Drake May, who knows? Maybe comes in. Maybe maybe he is C.J. Stroud in a different uniform.
You're right. You bring up great points, and I'm not going to dispute them in regards to that. But I'm going to use your argument. If I bet the Seattle Seahawks plus the 3.5, and I lose on Thursday night, right? You're going to be kicking yourself the rest of the week. I bought into that. If you bet the New England Patriots with Drake May making his first career start, going up against a team that just shut down one of the best, most prolific quarterbacks in all of the NFL to 9 of 30 completions, 30%, his worst, with a defensive-minded head coach licking his chops in D'Amico Ryans. I will bang my head against the wall if I do that. There is no way I could bet the New England Patriots with a defensive-minded coach in Gerard Mayo. It's not like Gerard Mayo's going to go like this. Oh, you know what? We're going to allow Drake May to chuck it 50 times in this game. A run. Stevenson left, Stevenson right. Antonio Gibb. How are they going to win this game, Scotty? You think he's going to open it up with Drake May?
Well, I'll tell you, our guy C.J. Stroud 4-8 against the spread as a favorite this year. Great as an underdog. Put him in as a favorite. Maybe it's up 10. You get no by the way touchdown. You win by 3 or 7.
All right, we'll see. We'll see. I love the Texans early on. I am not going to overthink this. I am going to take the better team with the much better quarterback and the defensive-minded coach. I'll roll the dice, and I know the numbers are against me. I don't care. I'm laying it in regards to that. Here's what I want to bring up. The game in London, right, or the game in Europe, Chicago and Jacksonville. I want to ask you this before we break down the game. It looked like Jacksonville were dead and buried, and rightfully so at 0-4. Is there any shot that they could do a complete 360 the way they lost, 8 games? I know they lost 9 straight, but the way they ended last year at 1-5, is there any shot that it's reversed this year? They start 0-4 and they're going to go on an 8 or 9 game winning streak to get back into this thing?
Well, I tell you, look at their schedule. Normally, I'd say yes, and I will say yes because it's only 1-4. And right now, a 500 football team is going to make the playoffs in the AFC. So the AFC has come way, with the Jets not being good, Dolphins not being good, Browns not being good. All these teams we thought were going to be good. No one's any good in the AFC, so they're not that far out of it at 1-4. But they got to make hay these next 2 weeks, Joe. These next 2 weeks, the Jacksonville Jaguars season is on the line. Chicago this weekend, New England the next weekend. Okay. If they don't go 2-0, then you look at the schedule: Philadelphia, Green Bay, Detroit, Minnesota, Houston, Indianapolis, Vegas on the road. It's not going to happen. Okay. If they go 2-0 and get to 3-4, and you win a couple of these close games, I think you'll go live.
All right, so then let's look at big picture, okay? Because we love to look for lottery tickets. 50-1 right now to win the AFC. You're not going to get that price if they're back to 3-4. You know that.
Right.
So we're better off back. You don't have to go big. You could go $20, $10, whatever type of bettor you are. It doesn't matter. The value is not going to be there at 50-1. So if you believe, and I don't think anybody is, and that's why I brought it up, is the fact that they do have an opportunity to get back into this thing, right? They get back to 500, And I said Cincinnati, I think, is going to go the other way because I don't know that team can continue to do that with the veterans. Chase is unhappy. Higgins is unhappy, right? But this team, knowing that it happened to them last year at the end of the season, maybe can jump back into this thing and say, you know what, they're young enough, and Peterson is a pretty good coach to get them back into the hunt with winnable opponents. I may take a shot at 50-1.
Yeah, there's a couple. I would take a shot because the potential is there for them, right? There's certain teams like New England and Indianapolis, or Tennessee rather. Even the Raiders. That listen, you get better odds, but the potential's not there.
How about
the Chargers? How about the Chargers?
Okay.
The other one, Joe. I mean, they're
No.
2-2. Got
Yeah.
Justin Herbert that's hurt. Have we really seen what this Chargers team is? They're really 2-1, right? I mean, Herbert got hurt. They really can make the case they're 2-0. Herbert, was hurt and didn't play the one game, and then he was hurt midway through the first game that they lost. So, if you want to throw those away, you got a Chargers team that's 2-0. They got a, terrific head coach, as crazy as he is. I think they're only going to get better as the season progresses.
Right.
At 32-1 to win the AFC, I think they're worth a flyer too.
Yeah, it's not bad value. Harbaugh in year one, I think it's a tough ask, right? Because, again, I still don't know if he has all the players that he particularly wants, right? And they do have a good base. As long as you have Herbert healthy, they have a legitimate shot. He's definitely put his stamp on that. I would also look to Jacksonville at plus 390 to make the playoffs. That might be a better way to approach it. You don't have to win the championship at 50-1, plus 390 just to get in the dance. If you think a 500 team is going to win it in the AFC, 4-1 odds isn't bad value either. And we can look at LA. Chargers are plus 130. So if we're looking at it, both teams compared, you get much better value on Jacksonville because nobody believes they can do it.
Yeah. It's amazing you don't get great odds on those things, because so many teams make the playoffs. That's the problem.
Right.
So
we'll see.
I think they're worth a shot.
We'll come back. We'll break down other games in week number 6 right here with Lisi and Wetzel. Keep it where it is.
Yeah, it's getting cooler.
Football weather is here.
Stay tuned for all the latest odds, strategies, and info. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
The Justice Department announced the arrest Tuesday of an Afghan national living in Oklahoma and accused him of plotting to kill Americans on Election Day on behalf of the terror group ISIS.
With the SportsGrid News Flash, I'm Trey Westerberg.
27-year-old Nasir Tawedi is alleged to have sought to purchase semi-automatic firearms and ammunition to further his alleged plans to carry out the attack, and even went so far as to liquidate his family's assets and resettling family members overseas in preparation. Hurricane Milton's wind speeds have slightly decreased, but it remains a Category 5 storm, according to the U.S. National Hurricane Center's most recent advisory. The storm has maximum sustained wind speeds of 160 miles per hour. As of 11 p.m. Tuesday, it was 405 miles southwest of Tampa. It had picked up lateral speed moving toward Florida at 12 miles per hour, and the Hurricane Center said it was expected to travel more quickly overnight into today.
I'm Trey Westerberg with the SportsGrid News Flash.
Lowe's knows it's easier to make the right calls when you have the right team. That's why our Lowe's Red Vest associates can help with game time decisions. Plus, use in-store mode on the Lowe's app to find what you need. Under pressure at home and want it soon? Order online by 2 p.m. to get it same day. Same day valid on eligible in-stock items and select zip codes only, subject to driver availability. Fees vary based on purchase. Exclusions and more terms apply. See Lowe's.com/same-day delivery for details.
Drivers who switch and save with Progressive could save hundreds, which could be life-changing. I mean, you could put that money towards that zero-turn lawnmower you've always wanted. And after using its edge-shaping technology to meticulously sculpt the face of the Mona Lisa into your grass, you'll become the undisputed king of Saturday morning lawn care, leaving your neighbor and sworn enemy Gary to question his place in the delicate neighborhood ecosystem. And it's all because you could save money switching at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, not available in all states.
Ask any player and they'll tell you any advantage is important.
That's where we come in.
SportsGrid delivers gaming strategies and analysis 7 days a week.
The winning edge.
It's your advantage to more winning
more often.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Scott Wetzel.
All right, back on Football Full Circle, diving into week number 6 of the NFL. We left off talking about Jacksonville and their game in Europe against the Chicago Bears. Chicago, 1.5-point favorite, Scott. 44.5 the total on FanDuel, juiced slightly to the over. We've seen Chicago been flawless at home 3-0 overall. This is a big step-up game in regards to Caleb Williams to try and get one on the road. Has performed very well. DeAndre Swift, Roshan Johnson, the rushing attack helping him out. I sort of like Jacksonville here. We know how well they perform in regards to these London games and these overseas games, plus 1.5. I'm going to go with Trevor Lawrence. I would take the plus 110 on the money line. And you know what? I think we get over the 44.5 total.
Don't necessarily like that, but I do like Jacksonville. I mean, when you think about it, you break it down. Caleb Williams' 2 best games came against the 2 worst defenses perhaps in the NFL. Carolina last week and Indianapolis 3 weeks ago. Against the better defenses, Tennessee threw for 93 yards. Houston, 174, and the Rams, 157. And the Rams defense isn't exactly great, but that's a fair, to what Jacksonville is. They're not great, but they're better than Indianapolis, and they're certainly better than Carolina. So I think he's going to struggle also, Joe. So I like Jacksonville. I know what we've seen last memory of Caleb Williams. He thrown for 300 yards, and the Bears are beating the snot out of Carolina. So we want to know that Caleb Williams. But I got a feeling flying overseas, home away from home from Jacksonville, I think there'll be more Jaguar fans there since they play so many games over there. I'll take a stab at Jacksonville to turn things around.
I will as well. Now, let's turn our attention to a big one in Baltimore, right? Baltimore playing as good as anybody. They win at 41-38 over Cincinnati in overtime. They came back from a double-digit fourth-quarter lead multiple times. Joe Burrow in Cincinnati couldn't put away Lamar Jackson. He's coming off 375, throwing through the air. He gets to face Jaden Daniels that just sliced and diced Cleveland. That was supposedly the hot pick of the week. Cleveland, they're going to be motivated. They're going on the road. Washington punching above their weight. And all of a sudden now Jaden Daniels is basically 4-1 and has this team in contention potentially for not just maybe a playoff spot, but in contention to maybe steal the NFC East the way they're playing. This line opened up at 7. We're seeing 6.5s right now. 51.5 on FanDuel, juice to the under at -112. I'll take the point, Scott. I know it's a step up in competition. I know the Ravens are a much better home team, even though they got beat by Gardner Minshew in Las Vegas. I understand what's up against me. But I'm going to take Jaden Daniels. And you know what? The plus 235 is intriguing as well. I'll take a shot just because I'm believing in Daniels and I'm believing in this Washington team.
Yeah, I could have said it better, Joe. Admittedly, it's one thing to beat the Giants in Arizona, and even Cleveland last week at home. I did love Washington at home. This is a step up. This is a chance to be with the big boys. But this is another one of those 6-point favorites or more, that 3-18 against the spread. And you got Lamar Jackson for all his, pluses and minuses. Ultimately, as a home favorite in this area, 17-25 against the spread. That ranks him 207 out of 217 quarterbacks in the last 20 years. That puts him at 211. He is like beyond bad as a more than 3.5-point favorite, even at home. So I don't doubt they win. Although I would put a couple shekels on the money line as well, but I don't think they cover the spread. I think Washington covers. This Washington team is playing great. They actually punted a couple times this past weekend. It's a miracle. So that Ravens defense has given up a ton of yards, right? They got torched by Dallas late in the game. Right. They got torched by Cincinnati. There's no reason why Daniels can't throw for a bunch of yards. I'd be playing his props as well in this one.
Yeah, I mean, on the ground, through the air, you name it. And again, that tempo has a way of exploiting. Terry McLaurin's come on, has been a main component of that offense, even though he didn't score. And again, I know Baltimore's the much better team and that has the veteran in regards to Lamar Jackson. I just believe right now Jaden Daniels doesn't care. He's answering the critics. And you want to give me a touchdown, I'll go down with my guy every day of the week. How about divisional matchup, New Orleans? We talked about Derek Carr out for potentially multiple weeks with the oblique tear. Will it be? It's a strain, right? We don't know if it's a tear just yet, but we saw this with Quinn Ewers. Missed about 3 or 4 weeks with the abdominal strain for Texas on the college side. This is going to be a step up here for Jake Haener or Spencer Rattler. 3.5-point home dogs against Tampa Bay coming off the Thursday night loss to Kirk Cousins. I like Baker. I'm going to lay the 3.5. And I'm going to go over the 41.5. I think there will be points in this matchup, Scotty.
Yeah, again, I don't like the over. I think this, I'm a little surprised with a backup quarterback thrown in there. And you would think they're going to be ultra conservative no matter who it is, right? If it's Rattler, I'm sure he's going to be scrambling all over the place. There is a difference, right, between the two quarterbacks, Hainer and Rattler, as far as preparation goes. So that I understand. Surprisingly enough, where's Taysom Hill? Have we given up on that experiment? Is he not being considered?
He was hurt last week. He was hurt. He was out of the lineup. And again, if Taysom Hill is a go, then I expect him to be utilized in regards to RPO looks, right? And then maybe we trend to the under. Here's the problem, though. And I say this about Dennis Allen all the time. He plays not to lose all the time.
Yeah.
He would, right? That game Monday night, I mean, okay, you open it up, Carr has the interception. I get that. But again, the game plan's got to be to attack. You have to understand if you're down by double digits, you can't just, allow valuable time to just lapse off the clock. And that's what these coaches do. There has to be a sense of urgency. 2-minute drill. Let's go. Again, I like Baker. I think they're the most complete team in the South. I still buying into Tampa Bay big picture. Give me the Bucs in regards to that matchup. How about this game? How about Cleveland catching 8.5 against Philadelphia? 42 and a hook. Now, I'll tell you this right now. This is, I'm telling you this right now. This is basically close your eye. I'm taking the 8.5 with the Cleveland Browns. I'm taking it somehow, some way. We'll talk about it on the back end, breaking down the Eagles and the Cleveland Browns. Is Deshaun Watson ever going to live up to expectations? Coming right back.
The boys of summer become the champions of fall. The World Series is on its way. And SportsGrid brings you every angle. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. SportsGrid TV and radio networks are the premier streaming video and audio channels dedicated to serving the sports wagering audience. Found on major smart TV platforms and streaming on SportsGrid Radio and SiriusXM Channel 159. SportsGrid's real-time data, expert commentary, and entertaining analysis transform viewers into informed sports enthusiasts. Our weekday radio lineup begins with the early line at 8 a.m. Eastern with Ben Stevens and Donnie Rightside. Donnie joins Kevin Walsh on Money Line at 11 a.m. Eastern, followed by Football Full Circle at noon Eastern. Kaplan and crew join the party at 1 p.m. Eastern, and Pharrell Coast to Coast keeps things rolling from 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern. Get in the mix with Kevin Walsh and Game Time Decisions at 6 p.m. Eastern. Evenings simmer with Carver and Lisi, then boils over with Gabe Moritzi on Sports Rage Late Night at 10 p.m. Eastern. To find out where to find SportsGrid that's best for you, go to sportsgrid.com. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right. For about $50 a month, you'll get lightning fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no upfront costs, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back. But you're gonna love it, and you're gonna love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no upfront costs, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now. 800-797-1292. 800-797-1292. 800-797-1292. That's 800-797-1292.
Think of us as your cool roommate that has this innate gift of somehow always picking winners and never bugs you about doing the dishes or paying rent. Sports gaming strategies and information 24/7. Get the winning edge. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Scott Wetzel.
All right, wrapping up today's show, we left off talking about Cleveland and Philadelphia. Before we dive into that breakdown, and I told you I like the Browns, Scotty, this Aaron Rodgers interview that's on the other network, I feel like I'm at a funeral. He is going on and on and on about his former coach. You would think that he's going to invite him over for Christmas. It's amazing.
He's going off on these goofy tangents, Joe, about how it's more than just a head coach. His kids got to go to school, and if you stopped it right there, you're like, okay, I understand. Then he goes off on his kids maybe being teased by people who don't have as much money, so those kids from poor neighborhoods are going to be teasing his kids. It's like, what? What are you talking about? This is like, well, I won't say the name, but this is just shut up. Just don't say anything more. It is so weird. And I'm
talking about feelings. He cares about it. If you care about your teammates, you'd be a mandatory OTAs.
Yeah.
I mean,
you would have gone to the owner and said, "No, don't fire the guy. No, don't. Right. I got my offensive coordinator. I got my players. Right. He's got to have some power.
Right.
Is he going to do that? No, he didn't do that. No. Oh, but he loves him though. Oh yeah. I just didn't try and save his job.
Yeah, I know. And then we're gonna carry Aaron Rodgers through the streets of New York down Fifth Avenue, saying what a great guy he is. Unbelievable. Yeah. I can't anymore with that. All right, we left off talking about the Browns. I know the Browns are dead and buried. I know they suck. I get all that. But I'm just going from the gambling perspective. You talk about those 7+ points or 6+ point underdogs. This is an ugly opposite pick, and you'll love this. There is no way you can honestly make the assessment Cleveland, in terms of back-to-back road games, should be alive in this matchup. Philadelphia coming out of a bye, right, in regards to this. I would do it because I think the game would lean to the under. I think the only way Cleveland can be competitive is if they shorten the game, keep Hurts on the sidelines, and 8.5 points. Scott, I mean, come on now. They got to cover one of these. I mean, everybody loved Cleveland because they started slow and nobody believed in Jaden Daniels. But Philly's offense, not as consistent, and I think that defense could be exposed.
Yeah, and you said there, when will Deshaun Watson ever live up to the hype, right?
Well, maybe
he has, Joe. Believe it or not, he's got a better win percentage with Cleveland than he does Houston. As a Texan, he was 28-25. With the Browns, he's 10-8. So that's not by a lot, but he's basically doing what he did in Houston.
Here's the thing. He hasn't. I mean, this year he hasn't thrown for over 200
he's been
yards.
Awful.
He doesn't have a 300-yard performance under his belt. Can we get one
against wide receivers?
Philly?
Those wide receivers, Joe, dropped so many, though, of his passes. They must hate him. They must absolutely hate him. Wide open passes in the end zone, 10-yard passes, 40-yard passes. Wow, that's a bad.
Let me ask you this, because, I talk about Philadelphia. I like their front seven. I think those guys, Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter, eventually are going to be as dominant. We haven't seen the consistency. But I'm still not sold on Vic Fangio. He was supposed to elevate this defense. They show glimpses against New Orleans. They have lapses in regards to other performances where they're giving up, 30+ points to Baker Mayfield. And in regards to that loss 2 weeks ago, do you believe in this team big picture? I mean, big picture. They're supposed to be a legitimate contender.
Yeah. I do. It's weird. I didn't last year until they were at like 9-1, 10-1. Right. Then I said, what? Jalen, they're the best. They are the best. Right? From that point on, I think they've won one football game. I know. So I'm a little stubborn. I got a little Polish and German all mixed in with my Irish and Italian. I'm stubborn, Joe, so it's going to take a little bit more for me to jump off the Eagles bandwagon. But they got to win this week, and they really – I'm not going to lay it just because of those 3-18 numbers. I'm just not going to do that until that actually flips. But there'd be a good tease, a good tease. Them in Houston, right? Houston -1, Philadelphia -2.5. How's that not going to catch? They can't lose to the Browns, right?
No, they lose to the Browns. I mean, Sirianni might be fired like Salah.
He might be the next one.
Yeah, he might be the next one because Philly
could be the next one, right?
Yeah, Philly fans would not accept that in any capacity. Especially coming out and knowing how they performed a couple of weeks ago against Tampa Bay. Now, I understand A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and those playmakers aren't there from an offensive perspective. But from a defensive perspective, this is a game that if you're the Eagles and you're an Eagles backer, you should dominate. You should never allow Deshaun Watson and that offense to score more than 13 points, right? So we'll see how it plays out. I'm jumping on Cleveland. Closing my eyes. For Danny Orlers, our great producer, Scott Wetzel, I'm Lisi. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a great week, everyone.
You found the advantage for gaming, odds, and more. But we call it the winning edge for short. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.